2 of those picks, including jacking off Jim Jordan. So what is McCarthy doing? He's pulling all of them from the committee, apparently. So it is entirely possible at this point that this is a negotiating tactic, or it's designed to seem strong, whether to conservatives at large or specifically to Donald Trump. But as of right now, at least, it seems like he's again trying to stop it from actually happening, or he's trying to stop it from having any beyond Lynn Cheney, any bipartisanship at all.
Of course. Also, the point is also it's probably twofold. He knows these people are gonna get rejected. Then they go and say, oh, look, they're not serious about bipartisanship because they're rejecting our biggest clowns. Yeah, we know, and you expected that. It's not about actually trying to get anything done. You can come out and blatantly say, we don't wanna take part in this because we support the insurrection, we support what happened, we support Donald Trump blindly, no matter what. Just say it, because you're saying it quietly anyway by putting up people like this in the first place. Just say it. No one's gonna buy that you really take it seriously because you literally voted against it. So we already know where your stance is. So there's no need in playing the games further.
Well, yeah, I look, at this point, I don't even know if the games are gonna happen. He says that, unless she reverses course, they're out, they're done. And he also says Republicans will not be part of their sham process and will instead pursue our own investigation of the facts. Oh, well, that's good.
Good.
Well, I mean, because JR, you want answers, they're gonna be looking for them. I'm sure they're gonna produce tons of answers, but Jim Jordan, unshackled from this committee, independently searching for the news, like Darkwing Duck, he's gonna crack this mystery. Kind of doubt.
I actually prefer Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers though, but
I do too, actually. So look, we're gonna have to wait and see again. Is she gonna back off? Look, let's get a prediction from you. I kind of have a hard time believing that she is gonna be like, oh, okay, now I let Jim Jordan on. I would have believed maybe that she'd let him on, but once she says no, them pulling out entirely, is she really gonna backtrack? It doesn't seem like something she would do.
No, I couldn't imagine, because that's gonna catch too much heat because everyone knows what a clown he is. Everyone knows that this is all a big setup of nothingness. So yeah, she can't backtrack on it now from where she was gonna stand, because even to this extent, that's a little bit too much of a back and forth and bending over backwards for Republicans to just sabotage in the first place. That'd be too blatant.
I think people are trying to get involved in our references to old cartoons. All this back and forth is giving people tailspin. Anyway, I love those cartoons. Anyway, we will keep watching for developments. Hopefully by tomorrow, maybe by the main show later on today, we'll know what is actually going to be the content of the commission. Because as we told you yesterday, it's beginning, I think, on the 27th. Like, we're not far off of the first committee hearings. We need to know who's sitting in the seats at this point. Anyway, J.R. Jackson, as always, it wouldn't be a big news Wednesday without you. So thank you for being here.
Glad to Excellent, good times. I'm glad it was back, and I was a little excited to go ahead and jump back into this. And it was fun times. I wish it was something a little more positive. I feel like we went total negative today.
We had a little bit of good news. They returned the women in Nigeria.
True,
That's
you're right.
Something.
You're right.
And they don't like Kirsten Sinema in Arizona. So small miracles. Anyway, thank you for being here. I hope you have a good one.
Thank you guys. See you.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, we have just a couple of minutes to close things out. So I did want to remind you, coming up after like 5 or so minutes, you got Indisputable. Go to youtube.com/indisputable_TYT. You can subscribe and sign up for notifications. Benjamin Dixon will be there. John Hart will be on for debate. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm gonna go to one comment. Jonah Thaw on Twitch says, John, what's your favorite MTG card? If you can't think of one, what's your color pie? That is very difficult, and there are many that I like. But for all my card tappers, I will say Cryptic Command led to a lot of fun. And I would say that I'm probably a Grixis person, if I had to say. But anyway, whether you play Magic the Gathering or not, thank you for watching the show. As I alluded to, I will be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks coming up a little bit later on. So until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, you know what time it is. Welcome to Indisputable. Let me first start the show by saying this. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a big announcement to make. Remember when we first started this journey on Indisputable? We started on Twitch, 3 hours every Monday. And I love my Twitch crew. That was the foundation. That Twitch crew was so amazing that TYT said, let's do this for 8 weeks. Let's do a summer series. We are in week, I think, 6 of that summer series. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to announce today that this show, Indisputable, because of your support, has now been picked up permanently for the TYT network, and we will start running this show on all of the linear platforms as well, Zumo, Pluto TV, etc., etc. And I want to say a big thank you for making that happen. Would not be possible without every single one of you tuning in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, breaking down news today will be my big homie, Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show, progressive activist. He will join us in just a moment. Also, John Hart will join me in the bullpen. Yeah, John Hart, Republican strategist, but he has actually said some common sense things in the past. We're gonna chop it up about policies and policing and climate in the United States of America. Let me take you to my top story. Texas, at it again. Now they have passed a bill, 18-4 in the Texas Senate, to stop teachers from being required to teach the KKK are morally wrong. That's right. Republicans in Texas, they want to make sure that teachers are not required to teach that the Ku Klux Klans are immoral in their position. Isn't that interesting? Now, I told you this before, all of this critical race theory talk was not about critical race theory. It was actually about stopping the teaching, the true historical teaching of race and racism in the United States of America. And Texas is the first state bold enough to tell you exactly what they're trying to do. So this did pass the Senate. It goes to the House. The House does not have a quorum at the moment because a bunch of Democrats left the state to stop another racist and repressive bill. But 18-4, the vast majority of Texas state senators believe in it. In a new political low, Texas, the Republican-dominated Senate, has passed a bill to eliminate a requirement that public schools teach that the Ku Klux Klan and its white supremacist campaign of terror are morally wrong. I'm an educator. I've been an educator for a while. I love teaching. But if you do not have a moral basis, an ethical core to the education, especially when you're talking about historical aspects of our societal norm, if you are not able to articulate the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, then the education that you are giving is meaningless. We are in the business of developing individuals. We are not just giving you information like a computer. We want you to develop morally, ethically. That's how we want you to develop. If you do not have that kind of education, then how are you developing morally? How are you developing ethically? So Texas, at least the vast majority of their Republican senators, are saying that the KKK should no longer be taught in the context of morally wrong. It gets deeper. The cut is among 24 curriculum requirements dropped from the new measure, along with, remember we talked about this early in the week, studying Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, the works of United Farm Workers leader Cesar Chavez, Susan B. Anthony's writings, and the women's suffragist movement and Native American history. They're going after all of it. Do you see what's happening? They're going after all of it. And that's why it's important that we stand together as a coalition when they come after one of us. You see, critical race theory was not about black folks. Critical race theory was not about just slavery or just racism against black people or just Jim Crowism against black people. It was about making sure the real history, the authentic narrative of this nation is not taught to our little ones, so that they are misinformed, they are miseducated and misguided in K through 12 education, so that they can't turn back once they reach age of maturity, receive positions of authority, and remedy the problems that their forefathers created. They don't want that. How do they stop it? This is the plan. There's more. The measure slices out more curriculum requirements from an already restrictive Texas education law. That's House Bill 3979 passed last month as part of conservatives' fear-mongering about critical race theory, a framework for studying institutional racism that is rarely taught in K through 12 schools. The term critical race theory is not mentioned in either the law that passed or this current state bill. Once again, I've been saying this since day one. CRT or critical race theory, not even found, the wording not even found in the legislation being passed. More. Though the new bill essentially erases the cautionary lessons to be learned from the KKK, Republican Lieutenant Governor Patrick praised the legislation for rejecting philosophies that espoused that one race or sex is better than another. This is a shame. Do we have pictures of those guys? Let's put them up. The governor and lieutenant governor. Okay, maybe we don't have the pictures. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. That's who they are. Yeah, that's Governor Abbott. So look at the face. Look at the face, ladies and gentlemen, of misinformation. Look at the face of who will protect white supremacy dogma. Rhetoric, not truth, is what compels them. Here's what teachers cannot do according to this bill. Teachers cannot be compelled to discuss current events or controversial issues of public policy or social affairs. And if they do, they cannot, this is emphatic in the bill, they cannot give deference to any one perspective. In other words, a teacher, if they choose to talk about the Klan, they can't tell you that the Klan was wrong. If they talk about slavery, they can't tell you that slave owners were immoral. Benjamin, what's your take, brother?
This gets to me, Dr. Richie, because they are very aware of the fact that the default position in this country is one that benefits white supremacy. And by saying that teachers cannot take a side in this issue, they are essentially cornering teachers into taking a false sense of being unbiased, when we know the entire idea of fair and balanced in this country has been one that has been beneficial to not only the right-wing conservative part of this country, but also white supremacy in general. So they know by default, by scaring teachers away from discussing this at all, and if they discuss it, they have to take the establishment talking points of leaving the status quo alone. And it's because of that we know without a shadow of a doubt that this bill is intended to protect white supremacy at all costs.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure how educators can pull this off. In the classroom, when you provide context to historical elements, there are winners and losers. But because of the hindsight of history, you also determine if the actions were morally reprehensible or were they in fact courageous and appropriate for that era. For example, if we're teaching about the civil rights movement, and we're talking about Rosa Parks. Well, Rosa Parks broke the law. Rosa Parks violated a city ordinance that said where black people can and cannot sit. We have historically judged that today to be morally wrong.
Right.
That black people should be able to sit wherever they choose to sit on the bus, even though she technically broke the law. And then it sparked a movement of the bus boycott, which is economic withdrawal. The context of that is the boycott was morally correct. It did accomplish the intended goal. And it showed the connection between private enterprise, which was the busing company, and government, and how they coordinated in order to disenfranchise and discriminate against black people. And they fought both of those systems. You have to be able to provide that kind of historical context in the educational arena. Now, Texas is saying, these Republican senators are saying, I don't want that kind of context being taught. Now, these are the same people that would tell you that they believe in Jesus Christ. These are the same people who would tell you they subscribe to a moral and value-centered religion that says doing right is always required, that the truth shall set you free. But these are the same people who are intentionally misguided or wanting teachers to misguide K through 12 students. Fascinating that this is happening in this country.
I love the way you frame that, right? You contextualize it into it is absolutely the plan, and to leverage faith in that way, exactly the way you outlined it. And I think that's one of the more insidious parts of what we're seeing happening around us.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how teachers are going to respond, but I know a lot of school teachers. Yeah. I know a lot of K through 12 educators. I was adopted by a high school teacher, and I've had very frank conversations with many of my friends who work in the public school system. If they want to save their profession, they're going to have to step up and do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but I promise you, if I was a K through 12 educator, that's exactly what I would do. I'm not asking them to do something that I would not personally do, and I will have their back 100% of the way. And for everyone who's watching this, and you agree that this is a miscarriage, that this is a tragedy, when teachers start standing up, when teachers get back in the classroom in just a few weeks, and they start teaching true history, and they start getting dragged by their state government or their superintendent, or they get fired by their principal, I need you to stand with them in your local jurisdiction. Because in order for us to save our democracy, we're going to have to save our K through 12 educational system. And it is currently being hijacked by bureaucrats who care more about their white nationalist ideology than the true education of our young ones. We're gonna shift gears. There's a guy who just wanted to say the N-word. He's a city councilman. This has been making the rounds on social media. Alabama Democratic Party, is calling on Tarrant City Councilman John Tommy Bryant to resign after the lawmaker used the N-word when referring to a black councilwoman during a council meeting. The whole thing was caught on video. Here it is.
The N-word.
I mean, I know I'm black.
Now
you want to address what I have to say.
Do we have a house here?
Yeah, you. Okay.
Do we? Hey, yeah, do we? Would she please stand up?
Y'all are seeing this, right? Cameras.
This clown went hard ER at a damn council meeting, okay? Do we have a house? Please stand up. That's what he said. His words. He chose to say this on the record in a council meeting to a black councilwoman. He chose to do this. Now, for some of you, you will read the story, and I'm going to give you more context. You will read the story and you will say, oh, he was just reciting what another black person has said to him about that council person. Well, first of all, we don't have that on the record. I have no evidence of that whatsoever. All I have is what he said on the record. And all he wanted to do is say the N-word in front of all those black folks and get away with it. But see, he came to the meeting with his bigotry. Here's more bigotry that is not as popularized from that same meeting. Here it is.
If you know anything about the Muslim religion, if you're not Muslim, their religion says they need to kill you. Do I have the floor or does someone else have the floor?
I mean, you want to address me so I can address you. Don't do that.
Mayor, I was talking and someone interrupted me. Could you please take care of that? And if you read the book, if somebody interrupts, you can have the police remove them.
First of all, he's totally inaccurate. Of course, the Islamic faith does not teach that. It has variations of expression like any other faith. And Christianity, nobody has killed more across this planet than in the name of Christianity. I have an entire research, published research called The Global Effect of Western Religion on Politics, Policy, and Government. You can check that out anytime. So he says, if you are Muslim, they have to kill you if you don't believe like they believe. Totally inaccurate. But he came to the council meeting with that kind of racism and religious bigotry already inside of him. So he was already ready to go. The councilman later said he was only repeating what Tarrant Mayor Wayman Newton, the city's first black mayor, called city woman Veronica Freeman. Brian said there was a difference between his use of the N-word and Newton's alleged use of it. He said it in a derogatory manner. I said it so people would know what the mayor said. Brian said the mayor was being derogatory toward Veronica Freeman when he said that. The Alabama Democratic Party urged Bryant to resign, calling the lawmaker a racist and unfit to serve. Alabama still has a long way to go when it comes to race, but cozying up to the KKK, which he has done, and using the N-word should make you unfit to serve. Wade Perry, the party's executive director, said in a statement, these racists belong in the history books with Bill Connor and George Wallace and not on the taxpayers' roll. Okay, 100% agree, but you're the Democratic Party. I want to see what the Republican Party of Alabama had to say. The Alabama Republican Party chairman, John Well, said the councilman's behavior is, and I quote, completely unacceptable in any setting. But did not say whether Brian should step down. Oh, just completely unacceptable. We have no place for this, none whatsoever. Should he step down? Oh, no comment. No comment on that, no comment. Benjamin is in Alabama. He said the N-word. He made up a story about he did it in context of repeating what someone else said. But he's the guy who wanted to say it on the record in front of everybody in that council meeting and in front of a camera.
Yeah, he had a little too much emphasis behind that ER for my comfort, and he should know better. I mean, they're words that I'm not going to say as a man, and he should recognize that there's words that he should not say as a white person. To the context of what he's saying, I know he probably is like, I can't believe I'm going to get in trouble because I came to the defense of this. In his mind, he came to the defense of this black woman, but you don't come to the defense of a black person by repeating and putting more power into the N-word than a black man having that conversation with another black person. Long story short, stay out of black folks' business. It's not for you to be the arbiter of how black people deem another black person. This is how you get yourself in trouble. You should have just kept your mouth shut, man.
Yeah, and we deal with facts here. And the fact is, we have no evidence of any N-word being used between anybody else. When asked the question about this, the mayor said, listen, the tape speaks for itself. All right, the tape speaks for itself. You see exactly what the guy did. And we do have context here. He literally had just got finished saying bigoted remarks against Muslim brothers and sisters by misquoting what their faith actually believes. And at the same time, in his white privileged world, he believes that Christianity is pure and holy. What Christianity, I mean, come on, I'm a Christian man, but I'm very clear that Christianity, in the name of Christianity, you have had all kinds of violence happen across this planet and a continuation of violence across this planet in the name of Christianity, in the name of a white male dominated ideological core. That's why I believe in a radical black Messiah named Jesus Yahshua. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, crunch berries!
No, I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years,
Right.
believing that it was actual berries. Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
What Donald Trump has done as president has cut taxes for the wealthy and made life better for rich people. But he's made life worse for poor people.
We're making America great again by throwing more money at the military to destroy other countries because that makes us great instead of investing it in ourselves.
That it's Donald Trump and it's Stephen Miller. The choosing is based on wanting to create cruel and inhumane conditions to scare other people away from ever coming to the United States.
The opportunity to make money off of tragedy is the American way.
There's only one place to put garbage people: in the trash.
We've never had so much access to so much information with so little idea of what the hell is going on.
What does enforcing our borders have to do with traumatizing children? Absolutely nothing.
I think a sane person could say the current situation we have right now is radical. But what we're doing is literally making the world more like hell. That's a warning sign.
ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I have seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he's the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're going to win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com.
We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hart.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
All right, welcome back to Indisputable. Make sure you follow us on social media, Indisputable TYT. That's good on Twitter and the Gram. And also make sure you jump on that Indisputable TYT YouTube page. If you're watching me and it's not on that YouTube channel, make sure you go to that YouTube channel, tell your friends and family, go to that YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, all right? We're at over 145,000 subscribers, and it's because of you. And remember, I mentioned earlier, we have been picked up permanently now. Indisputable is now part of the lineup, the TYT family, because of you as well. Let me read some of these amazing comments. TYT member, oh, this is beautiful. Bullpen fan art, tall and awkward. Can we show it? Look at that. I'm the big fella, by the way. That's beautiful, I love it. Welcome to the bullpen. Okay, Mickey C, the silver hair dragon, says, congratulations, Dr. Richie. Welcome to the TYT family. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here. Greyhound Dragon says, hell yeah, congrats, Dr. Richie. So pumped. This show is staying. Hart. Thank you so much. All right. YouTube super chat. Tito Bandito says, love your work, kind sir. Please do tell the real history about the Texas Rangers, AKA the lynching posses, for Mexican banditos or fugitive black workers. The truth can only make us free. You're right. We'll tackle that on this show. Dragon Hart, thank you, says, how are they going to explain Juneteenth when they can't teach slavery? Well, they can tell you about slavery. They just have to say there were very good people on both sides. That's how they have to teach it, based on the 18-4 Senate bill. Nicole Smith, our governor refuses to protect our children. Now it's time for we Texas parents to step up. We have to teach our children right from wrong and protect them. You do. You have to come against this. This should not be a political issue. Everyone who's listening to me, you remember what it was like to be taught the moral issue connected to racism. That was a good lesson for you to learn. Forbesilla says, Ben be looking cute as hell today. His wife is lucky for sure. And then she gets to me second. She says, and congrats on the full-time gig, Dr. Richie. Keep educating this white girl on the daily. But her first obligation was to make sure she gave a shout out to Benjamin Dixon. Karen goes to Washington, says, conservatives don't hide their racism anymore. Correct. Billy T, Dr. Richie, you are my hero, my brother, a martial artist of truth. I like that, thank you. Ashley Turner, love this show. Dr. Richie is so incredibly knowledgeable and uses his smarts for good. Thank you, sir, much respect. Thank you, Ashley, for that kind comment. Renee Townsell says, I love this show, keep informing us, sir, in the name and pursuit of justice. And Bridget Afridi says, Denver calling out, somebody take this heat from us. Hello, Dr. Richie. Listen, I don't know if I can help you. It's hot as hell in Georgia. I'm sitting here with about 4 or 5 ACs on in the crib, downstairs, middle, upstairs. It's still hot. I'm fanning myself. Georgia's so hot that it's too hot to go swimming a whole lot of days. And when it's that hot, it's hot, okay? Just too damn hot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my next story. Footage of a Capitol rioter, AKA domestic terrorist, has been released, hitting a DC cop. Remember, these are the police, all right? DC cops are the police. This video has been released after CNN sued for access. DOJ released this video of retired Special Forces officer Jeffrey McKillop hitting a DC police captain in the eye with a flagpole. Officer on officer violence. Here it is. What are we going to do about this police on police violence? Officer on officer violence. We just had a father-son duo. They were under investigation, getting arrested out of the state of Florida. They went all the way to DC just to commit criminal acts. What's happening right now? Why are so many people who are inside of the US military and inside of police departments engaged in an insurrection against the United States of America? It seems almost as if the culture of that mindset intentionally permeated the ranks of our US military and the ranks of policing in America. When McKillop launched the flagpole at the officer, it caused a laceration near his left eye, according to an FBI affidavit. Now remember, the Department of Justice did not want you to have this video. They didn't want you to have it. CNN had to sue them in order to get access to the video. There's a huge question here. Why is the DOJ continuing to operate in a way that's less than transparent? Can't blame it on Trump right now. Biden's in charge. Can't blame it on Bill Barr. So what's really going on here? I got questions. The affidavit also said McKillop assaulted 3 other officers in the same vicinity. Now remember, he's a former military special forces officer. He likely says he loves the police. He probably has a Back the Blue banner on his pickup, but he's fighting the cops in DC. Per the Justice Department, McKillop pleaded not guilty to 12 charges, including assault. So he pleaded not guilty. Here's a still of what the assault looked like up close. So you see what the cop was experiencing at that moment. McKillop was arrested in March. Prosecutors said they identified him after the riot by publishing photographs of him on the FBI's website. 2 people told the FBI that McKillop was a retired US Army Special Forces soldier and a military contractor who lived in Virginia. I'm just waiting for those on the right to call out this military official. I'm waiting on them to say something negative about what he did to 4 police officers. I'll wait. The affidavit said that McKillop wore a US Army Special Forces badge on his backpack during the riot, which helped identify him. Yeah. Listen, first of all, you have to appreciate redneck logic. You're going to DC to commit acts of crime, and you're so damn privileged, you figure, well, hell, let me go ahead and commit assault against 4 police officers while literally wearing identifiers. Gotta love it. McKillop has been charged with multiple federal crimes, including assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers during using a dangerous weapon, inflicting bodily injury, and entertaining and remaining in a restricted building or grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon. We also don't know exactly what his affirmative defense will be. He's caught on video. It's obvious that it's him doing this. The charges are what they are. This is alleged until there's a conviction. But Benjamin Dixon, what are your thoughts about this?
I appreciate the fact that you're pointing out that this is happening underneath the protection is happening underneath the Biden Department of Justice, Merrick Garland as the Attorney General. And this is not the only time we've seen video be withheld, but we've also seen some of the process of accountability, particularly as it pertains to Donald Trump and his administration, the previous administration. There's a hesitance in the Biden administration to hold the previous administration accountable. This is not new and germane only to the Biden administration. We saw the same thing with the Obama administration. They were reticent to hold the Bush administration accountable. And when we don't hold administrations accountable, we see that this is the type of thing that compounds. Donald Trump is a product of the fact that we've never held any president accountable for anything that they've ever done on the international stage in any way, with the exception of Bill Clinton and his indiscretion in the White House with Monica Lewinsky. That said, we're also looking at this revolution that is being, and I use that word very loosely because it's not a revolution in the sense of revolutionary intentions. They're doing this on behalf of white supremacy, and it marched all the way up to the steps, and now they're being held accountable for it in the slightest way. And they can't imagine, because Dr. Richie, in their minds, those people, that officer, that soldier who went there, he went with identifiable features on his uniform because he actually thought that he was on the right side of history when they were not.
I'm going to give everyone a very sobering fact, and it will bear out in the future. Those people have not gone anywhere, okay? Those people are still in this country. As a matter of fact, a lot more wanted to be there, but they didn't make it. But they may make the second one or the third one. My point is this: the FBI every week, they're releasing information. We're seeing it in the affidavits, in the reports, in the case files of white supremacist militia groups all over the United States of America They have weaponry, they have means, they have opportunity, they have plans. And we're seeing all of this happen in real time. These are the same people. The reason why you have a criminal justice system in the first place is to not only punish wrongdoers, but to also send a very clear message to other would-be wrongdoers to construct and to stop bad behavior in the future. If you give them a light sentence or you don't charge them with everything you could, and they continue to go home with probation, with 20 days here, 10 days there for committing an act of domestic terrorism, it is not going to shape the public opinion and stop would-be terrorists from doing the same thing. Okay. To my next story.
Y'all go back to your brown country, bitches. It's exactly what it is. It's racist. You're being I don't give a what's your.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free. Back off. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
This story is a little more complex, but this particular Karen defends her racist comments by saying, I'm married to a black man. Damn. That's a hell of a marriage, obviously. So this particular Karen was caught telling a Hispanic couple to go back to your brown country. Obviously a racist statement meant to be offensive to this couple. This was following a parking lot altercation. She'd even attempted to defend herself by saying she was married to a black man before this escalation to a racist conversation began. This Karen actually slapped the woman. Now listen, I have to show you how we can tell she slapped the female in this story. And I want you to catch it. You got to watch it closely. Here it is.
In the car. I'll call the cops. Get in the car. You don't want to tell me? I'll call the cops. Tell you what. Okay, give me. Look, your husband kicked my in. I didn't damage Joe's car. He kicked that in. I have video. I have video of it. You shut the up, bitch. You dumbass bitch. No, you don't talk to me, not him. Okay, I'm right here. He has to call his wife. Can't deal with it. Look. What is it in the goddamn truck? First of all, don't. Look, we have cameras. That's what I'm saying. I didn't hear your. And then you're like, I'm gonna text my wife. My wife will handle this. I'm not about to argue with you. I'm calling her to talk to you. But did she? No, she came swinging at me. You hit her face. No. You slapped her. No, y'all go back to your brown country, bitches. They racist. This racist. I hate racist. It's exactly what it is. It's racist. You're being I don't give a what you're married to. Look what you just said. Go back to your country. Yeah. Really? Y'all brown. I'm American. I'm black. And if your husband's black, then what the No, you're not. I'm American. I didn't leave the scene. I'm still here. If I didn't have no papers and I would have left.
You do not get to inoculate yourself against being a racist just because of who you sleep with. Please understand that. It's very clear that in this story, in this confrontation, she decided to be bigoted and racist against this particular couple. Now, it was a dispute, a parking lot dispute. She decided to make it racial. That's what she decided to do. And I hope you saw the shadow that clearly showed this white female slapping the victim. Let's play that again. You saw that? Here it comes. Look at the shadow. Clearly. And then she even said, oh, no, your wife swung at me. No, you hit his wife. She defended herself, okay? Ben, what are your thoughts?
My thought is that they really should stop. They really should consider that they're going to get a feature on "I Wish a Karen Would." They keep acting like this. I mean, because at this point we're leaving no stone unturned. We're identifying Karens at every turn. If you want to be famous, then just keep acting the way white supremacy has let you get away with acting. And this is what it is. Like, there's a lot of people who are uncomfortable with the fact that they can no longer get away with what they used to get away with. We used to say the N-word and nobody say anything. We used to slap you in public and nobody say anything. We used to get angry because you could be in our quote unquote space that we colonized and no one would say anything. But now we got all of these videos and everyone wants something to say. And this is tied directly to critical race theory, as you were saying earlier. Not only do they don't want the present to be told accurately, they don't want the past to be told accurately.
Very well said. Very well said. And remember, the reason why they're willing to act in this manner, to be physically aggressive, to assault individuals, to be racist and bigoted in their conversation and argumentation. The reason why is because typically they have been protected in those very same spaces. There has been a level of protection. I guarantee you, when the police arrived, she tells them, oh, no, this person hit me. No, it was the fault of that individual. I had nothing to do with them. But that's why it's important we highlight the reality of truth on this program. Because the more we expose this kind of behavior, the more we're able to have a better sense of how these things happen before the police arrive. And so I'm very proud of the work we continue to do here with all of our segments. All right, we got more. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this isn't good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections. And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of comments. Let's get to it. TYT member Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, says, why were cops and military involved? Why were many legislators involved? Didn't they all take an oath to uphold the Constitution? And that's precisely why they don't want it actually investigated. Daniel Lebeek. Hi, Dr. Richie. It's always great to see you. I love your show and look forward to it every day. Hey, Ben, I love seeing you on TYT. I spend my mornings with you, Rebecca, Bubba, and our beautiful Lion family on Twitch. Love you both. That's awesome. Thank you. Love you back. YouTube, super chat. Shy Guy 778 says, hey, man, I love this show. You think you could get Nina Turner on before the election next month? We're working on it, brother, and thank you for loving the show. Amy Jarrell says, I'm a white woman married to a black man. That isn't a get out of card. It's an increased responsibility to learn, to listen, and to be decent. So well said, so well said. Nicole Smith, yes, so proud to have you as part of the TYT family. Thank you so much, Nicole. Wayne says, pretty please, Dr. Richie, change the name from Bullpen to Woodshed. That is funny. Thank you so much, AC. AC says, keep on pushing, we shall. Iris Jones, thank you for that. Chris Black, cop on cop violence. What happened to Back the Blue? Oh, my bad. That's just when it's against black people. Exactly. Now you're catching on. Larry Harris says, he will get an incredible whopper and probation. Yeah. Insomnia Noor says, well, that was a huge violation of the flag code. They all seem to love so much. Yeah, Peachy Shari, my husband had to go into the office today. He'll be sad he's missing. I wish a Karen would. He loves to hate Karens. Wow. Tell your hubby I said hello. Glitteriest Dreadhead, pretty sure she's married to a Tim Scott type. Maybe married to Tim Scott himself, who knows? Okay, my next story. This is one of those situations where I just say, good for him, okay? There's a racist streamer who really just wants to get attention. And we debated on if we want to give this guy attention. So at the end of this, he uses the N-word, but he's going up to people. I'll let you see it for yourself.
Trying to make us go over here. What do you think about Hey, man. What do you think about
Go to hell.
Yeah.
You want this camera shoved up your ass?
Why do I deserve that? I don't understand what your point is, bro. Like, seriously.
Here. No, I got water. Here. He told me to get water. Sorry. You told me to get water here. Hey, what happened? We live streamed and someone pepper sprayed him for no reason. Yeah.
Yes. I'm smiling on the inside and outside. Now, I don't advocate for people to get pepper sprayed, but when you're continuing to harass a man and telling him what does he think about niggas or whatever he wanted to say, and then at the end he uses the entire E word, okay? the entire N word and went hard ER. When that happens and the person tells you continually, leave me alone, I'm not bothering you, leave me alone. And then they take out, I mean, this was an older gentleman. He has his mace just in case something like this pops off. And he maced the guy. And the guy cries like a baby. Now, I'm going to tell you this, fella. That girlfriend you got, she ain't for you, brother. Let me tell you why. She kept recording. While you're sitting there crying like a child because you got exactly what you were asking for, she kept recording you. She not the one. I'm just telling you. She was happy that happened to you. She kept recording. She didn't delete it either. Okay, Benjamin, what are your thoughts, man?
You know, Dr. Richie, these folks want to be famous. They are, I wonder if they don't understand how they themselves are victims of this system. Not that I'm going to extend too much grace and concern with them, but you gotta be really ignorant to go out and seek this kind of attention for the sake of your podcast or your YouTube channel. But we see this happening on a regular basis. It's just a level of ignorance that has been monetized and bigotry that has been monetized, and we're seeing more and more of it, and it's so unfortunate.
Yeah, and you really saw the guy's true colors when he was, when the other male defended himself against him, where he goes, he uses the N word, he calls him the N word. Now, this is the second time I've reported on my show of a white person calling another white person the N word. It's just fascinating to me. But you know where it comes from. That to them, that is the worst thing to call anybody.
Exactly.
All right. And so that's why they're using it. Now, obviously, it is a racist word, but I find it quite ironic that this individual assumed that no one would at least defend themselves when he remained consistently aggressive and coming into their space. This guy doesn't know who this individual is. And once again, as I said before, this was an older gentleman that he's messing with. And this guy does this on a regular basis, by the way. So he goes up to random people and he bothers them. Okay, he bothers random people. And he typically bothers people that seem non-threatening like this older gentleman. Well, listen, as my grandmother would say, Pops had something for him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna run up on the right one and get the wrong answer one of these days. But no, absolutely, Dr. Richie. I can't stress enough what you just said. I gotta reiterate, they know every time they form that word, their intention is to cause emotional harm. And so there's no second guessing about this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Fox News hosts are vaccinated. Okay. So let me give you some background to this. There's a Fox News vaccine passport program to protect employees from what? COVID-19. While the talent on Fox News, and yes, I say that word loosely, while the talent on Fox News continues to espouse a doctrine that somehow COVID-19 is just fake news. So let's put up the human resources letter from Fox. All right, so we got access to this Fox Human Resources email, and it says, thank you for providing Fox with your vaccination information. You are no longer required to complete your daily screening through Work Care Work Matters. However, please continue to monitor your health and stay home if you experience any of the symptoms. Please keep this email and image stored in a safe place where you will be able to access it easily. You will be asked to provide it upon entering Fox work locations, all of them, all Fox work locations. This is the rule. Employees who supply that information will no longer be required to complete a daily health screening, according to the reports. Not only has Fox welcomed guests who reject the concept of so-called vaccine passports, its own messengers have scoffed at the entire idea on air. Cash cow, Tucker Carlson, recently equated separating non-vaccinated people who could be carrying a deadly and contagious virus to racial segregation during the Jim Crow era. Fox News has repeatedly undermined efforts to mitigate the dangers of COVID-19, which has killed more than 600,000 Americans. That has included comparing the deadly pandemic to the common flu and refuting the value of wearing masks in minimizing transmission. So they've said, listen, if you're being told what to do, all of this COVID-19 awareness and safety protocol and vaccination is just big government telling you what to do. Here's some of what Tucker Carlson has said.
The administration would like you to take this vaccine.
Not just the administration, Tucker, but Fox News corporate. They want you to take the vaccine too. You didn't report on that, but that's what the HR lady said in the email. Continue.
What if you don't want to get vaccinated? Not everyone does. It's arriving in small bottles, but with a glitzy entrance. Have a vaccine and a smile. Just do it. How are the rest of us supposed to respond to a marketing campaign like this? Well, nervously. Whatever you do, don't say this is social control. Because if you do, the richest and most powerful people in the world will act in perfect coordination to shut you down immediately. It all seems a bit much. It feels false.
Once again, Human Resources said, and I'm sure Tucker is on the email list, thank you for providing Fox with your vaccination information. Benjamin, the irony, the hypocrisy is so staggering. I don't really need to provide tremendous commentary, but I want to remind everyone, when you do this to people who trust you, you do not have respect for the people who trust you.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are willing to play with the lives of their supporters, the people who create their wealth. I mean, that's the whole conversation, right? Yep. They have no respect for the people who create their wealth. The Fox News viewers are the source of their wealth creation. And now we're looking at a situation where we can directly tie the actions of Fox News. This is why they're doubling down, or they're backing down now. And now they're pushing. Sean Hannity came out and supported the vaccine this week for the first time very vocally, because they know that they could be held accountable for amount of the misinformation that they are intentionally spreading, harming their own supporters.
Yeah, Steve Doocy recently told the truth on Fox News about COVID. He said, listen, these conspiracy theories are not accurate. I mean, he went down the list. As soon as he finished talking, he started trending on social media, started trending on Twitter. Fox viewers telling him to resign, telling him that he was wrong. And what did Steve Doocy do? Now, Doocy, I'm no fan of this cat, but damn it, he told the truth about COVID-19. That's what he had the audacity to do. And why is this such a political hot button issue? Why? Because it became politicized. It was not created in the political narrative, but Donald Trump and others, they wanted to make it political from the beginning. And it started, and that really to me was the first big lie. The first big lie from Donald Trump, and he made a lot of them, but this was a big one because over 500,000 people are dead. The big lie was that COVID would be here today, gone tomorrow. Remember when he said that? And when he told us this, he had information that it was more deadly than he ever thought. He said this in an interview that went on the record later, but he knew that it was not as light as the common flu, even though he was saying this to those in the public. He knew that it was killing children, even though he was saying something totally opposite in the public. First big lie, and he politicized it from day one. Benjamin, I give you the last thoughts on this topic, brother.
I used to think that it was human nature for self-preservation, that it was instinct for self-preservation, but we're seeing that instinct can be trumped by politics, especially when people are worshipers of Trump.
Man, that's a damn good point. Very good point. And on that, brother, I thank you for always providing great insight. Tell people how they can follow you on social media and check out your show.
They can follow us on social media at Benjamin P. Dixon on Twitter, and they can watch our show every morning, 8 o'clock, right here on YouTube and anywhere you can stream.
Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure, brother.
Pleasure's mine. Take care.
All right, we got more on the other side. The bullpen is up next. Stick and stay.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
All right, welcome to Dr. Rashad Richard Indisputable. This is going to be quite interesting. I don't know if you can handle this much truth on any day of the week. The unrest inside of the black community and communities that support them. It's because these cops are not held accountable. You have a family calling 911, and that family is expecting help, not expecting their loved one to be killed by the very people they pay to protect and serve them. Did you ever notice a cop that you worked with call any black person the N-word or target people because they were black? Nope. But we disagree that somehow police officers are not also subject to the same systemic biases and racism as any other level of law enforcement.
It sounds like for everybody's need who wants to crucify the cops without looking at it.
No, crucify bad cops, brother.
Of course,
cops.
We don't need the government to step into our lives mandating that we should be wearing a mask.
You putting on a mask, Trey, is government intrusion. But you don't think the government telling a woman what she can or cannot do with her body isn't government intrusion.
Where does life begin?
You want to go there? I can read it to you, bro.
You seem very well prepared. Certainly more.
Of course, why would I not be well prepared? They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform throughout this country, so I won't stop, and you won't stop either.
I've been a fan of TYT, I believe, for the last 6 years.
5 years.
3 years now. 7 years.
4 years now.
2.5 years. I just started because she got me into it.
My boyfriend actually watches it every morning and every night, so I kind of just started watching it with him, and I love it. I mean, it's the only way that I find my news.
Looking through YouTube, looking for political shows that look cool.
I came across a very angry rant from Cenk, and that's when I knew.
So I was immediately in love with the show. And then I had how to miss a live show since then. 10 times a day, I watched the show in the morning.
Whenever I had a bad day at high school, Young Turks.
Man, Cenk is just so blunt and honest, and I love the honesty, and there's no BS behind the news, and they just tell everything like it is.
There's nobody censoring them. There's nobody there to say, you can't do this, you can't say that.
That feel of authenticity makes it seem like what they're saying is true.
I feel like I get the real story from the Young Turks.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT. I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Let me read some of these viewer comments. Thank you for chiming in. We got TYT member Warlock says, Dr. Richie, so when are you getting Tucker Carlson on in the bullpen? I don't know. I've actually been on his show before. It was a while ago. I've been on his show a couple of times. Mopped the floor with the guy, and he stopped allowing me to come on the program. So I would love to have him on Indisputable any day. YouTube super chat. Bernie, the Kiwi Dragon says, your facial expression covering that streamer needs to be put on a mug, Doc. The Dr. Richie indisputable Glee mug, I'd buy it. I know, it just gave me so much joy, all right? I have to be authentic and transparent and truthful on this platform. Kevin Markle says, this the real news. You're damn right it is. Gadsden Mika says, McHugh, maybe I said that right, I apologize if I did not. Notice he didn't go up to a black man. He did not. He went to an elderly white guy who was about that life. That's what happened. He didn't expect that. Directive 4 says, I mean, Tucker comes from TV dinner money. Promoting unhealthy choices is just carrying on the tradition. Yeah, Stephen Turner, thank you. Welcome to Tier 3. Twitch, Snake Anthony 210. Fame hunger is real, and it can be unfortunate for those of us just minding our biz. Yep. Fox, do as I say, not as I do. Exactly. That's the message they're sending. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. In the Bullpen today, we have none other than John Hart, Republican strategist and co-founder and vice president of C3 Solutions. He's been a Republican strategist in the game a long time. John, good to have you on Indisputable. How are you?
I'm great, Dr. Richard. Thanks for having me.
Man, I got to tell you this, brother. I obviously know your work. You're more of a moderate Republican, but I don't even know if I like to use that word. You're more of a Republican that actually makes sense. Because there was a time when I could debate a Republican, and at least I understood why they believe what they believe. Man, some of your colleagues on the right, brother, damn man, what has happened?
Well, it's a great question. I would say I'm not so much a moderate as I am moderate in manners, but very conservative in policy. I would describe myself as a constitutional conservative. I think the founders had a brilliant idea, brilliant experiment in government. And I think what's happened in our country is we've moved away from debates about ideas and positions to cult of personality. So I think on the right, we've put way too much faith in Trump, but people on the left, to a lesser degree, but Bernie Sanders is a bit of a cult of personality figure. So I think that tribal sort of language is really dangerous. And I've done development work overseas as well in the Balkans. And so I think I'm watching the Balkanization of American politics. And so if that makes me a moderate, then I'm willing to say that I'm happy to be a moderate, but I would say I'm very conservative in terms of what public policy should be and what our direction should be for the country.
And I see that, and we're gonna talk about some of that policy. I will push back on the Bernie Sanders reference. At least Bernie Sanders comes to the table with defined policies, even if you completely disagree with those policies. But you all have people on the right like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been unable to articulate any policy. You have now Matt Gaetz, who has devolved into a rhetoric machine rather than a policy centric Republican, and others. But you're right, there's this dependence on personality. And I teach my college students to never get fixated on the personality of any politician that you support. Because the name of the game for politicians is not personality, it's policy. And you have to connect with their policy agenda. If their policy agenda is adversarial to the community that you represent, well, that's not the politician for you, period.
You got it. Yeah, and I think with Gaetz, I think Gaetz is putting the party in Republican Party, and we need to be more about ideas and less about flash and substance and all that stuff.
Let me read something that you said, and I completely agree with this statement. You tweeted, "Conspiracy theories are a cancer for the GOP. The cause is Trump, whose childish meltdown after the election." And then it cuts off here, but I know your sentiment. Explain to us what you meant by it's all Trump, these conspiracy theories in your party.
Well, I think what Trump did after the election is what he should have done is take responsibility for losing the election. I mean, he got fewer votes than Joe Biden did in key states, and he is not president today, not because the election was stolen, but because he lost. And to invent a narrative that doesn't acknowledge that reality creates a huge setback and hurdle for people like me and others who are trying to advance conservative free market ideas in all areas, especially climate, poverty, upward mobility. And so I think that's what was so damaging and destructive about that. And so that's why I've been critical of them. But I've also praised him in areas where he did the right thing. I think he did some very good things in terms of growing the economy, increasing jobs for lower income minority populations. He actually reduced greenhouse gas emissions during his administration.
Well, let me push back on some of that.
His rhetoric was all over the map, but I think he accomplished a lot of really valuable things.
So John, let me push back a little bit on some of the policy issues, and then we'll get into climate change. While black people had more actual jobs under the administration, and by the way, it was trending in the right direction under President Obama. And if you look at your actual increase of jobs, President Obama saw the largest increase numerically than Donald Trump did. Trump actually, under his administration, slowed down that progress, but it continued to go in the right direction until COVID. Let's talk about black employment. While true, under the U3 rating system, more black people had technical employment than ever before, really, if you look at modern statistics. The issue with the U3 rating system is that it only configured every 30 days in the survey model if you had 1 hour of work in that 30-day survey. The U6 rating system provided context to that data and actually described if the work was part-time, seasonal, contractual, and did it pay the bills. And when you look at it from a U6 rating system, black unemployment and underemployment was still at 22% in the United States of America. But the administration, they decided to espouse the U3 system so that they could say technical employment means people are able to actually pay the bills, and that's not the truth. And listen, you're a data guy, you know what I'm saying is completely accurate. The other part of that is the reality of the DOJ under the Trump administration no longer prosecuting open discrimination happening in the workplace. That was a big mistake. Now, there was a real cause and effect dynamic from that policy. Under the Trump administration, black people started making less on the dollar from their white male counterparts, similarly educated with similar background. That number was moving in the right direction under President Obama because the DOJ said we're gonna crack down on discriminatory practices. DOJ under Trump said we're not going to do that. And what happened? Employees took advantage of that, and you saw the disparity happen again, right? So we could talk about policy, and I know there are some things you agree with fundamentally, like deregulation. I just disagree with deregulation. We're never going to see eye to eye on that. But I do think we agree, we want more people working, but we also want more people being able to pay the bills. We want them to have jobs that pay the bills. Let's talk about climate change, because Trump, the way you characterize Trump, I agree with your sentiment, but I disagree with your diagnosis. I don't think Trump did it. I think Trump is a symptom. I think Trump is a product. Because before Trump, there was another big lie. And that big lie was President Obama was not born in the United States of America. That was the big lie. That predates Trump. And there was a big truth that John McCain, God rest his soul, RIP, John McCain actually wasn't born in the United States. He wasn't. It's on his birth certificate. But he had the military exception rule. But nobody made that an issue. But the guy who actually was born in the United States, they made an issue about that, and it came from the Republican Party. So Trump, he took advantage of a big lie, and he rode that big lie all the way into the hearts and minds of Republican voters. So do you agree that the conspiracy and the big lie and the tribalism actually predates Donald Trump?
Yeah, I do, but I think tribalism cuts across tribes. I don't think to sort of claim it originated from the conservative side is not true, or to say it only originated from the left is also not true. I think as a culture and as a country, we've lost connection with reality, and we live in what I call the age of unreason, where it's very, very hard to have respectful, common sense conversations about complicated issues like climate change. So it's highly polarized, highly politicized to a degree that's not helpful. Real debate is valuable. That's why the founders wrote the First Amendment. Way back in, John Milton wrote that whenever truth and falsity are allowed to grapple freely, whoever knew truth to be penned in a free and open exchange. So that conflict, that sort of that back and forth of ideas, what you're trying to do in your show, is really valuable because it gives people insight and it helps folks mobilize around public policies that are going to help the common good. And if the goal is just to shout and insult people and kind of just play to your base, that's not a very effective way to strengthen a democratic society.
Well said, John. Let me bring something to your attention. We'll talk about climate change now. 11% of conservative Republicans think that scientists understand climate change. Only 11%. I mean, that's staggering, man. Like 1 out of every 10 conservative, they actually believe scientists in this arena know what they're talking about. Let's contrast that. Among Democrats and independents who lean Democratic, 78% believe that scientists are on the right track. They also 80% believe it should be a top priority. This is an increase of 22% since 2016. So literally what you're seeing in the climate conversation, more left-leaning individuals are saying, okay, this should be a top priority, and it's getting higher as to those who agree we need to take it seriously. And then on the Republican side, it's moving in the wrong direction. Where is that coming from, and how do you address that inside of the conservative movement?
Well, yeah, I would say it actually is. It's moving in the right direction. When you look at what's happening in Congress now, Representative John Curtis of Utah just launched something called the Conservative Climate Caucus. So our organization, the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions, we deliberately put the word conservative and climate in the same place to tell people, if you believe this is a problem we should address, the best solutions, the best ideas are conservative free market ideas. So in the House, you have a caucus of over 60 members that have joined and made that statement and said, look, climate change is real. It's a global challenge. And so that's actually where it's headed. So there's a lot of other studies that have come out where particularly younger Republicans, they want dramatic action on climate change. And so the question is, well, what should that action be? And I think what's happened is the media does not reward, the political economy doesn't reward a healthy conversation about this. So for example, if somebody says, well, I have questions about the science, I'm not sure I understand it, they're smeared a denier, or you have to say the science is settled. Well, when you say things like the science is settled, that's not a very scientific claim, because science by definition is always unsettled. Now, that doesn't mean I believe climate change is real, but rather than asking these binary questions, what we need to do in the climate change debate is understand it's all about risk. We need to have a conversation about what are the risks and what can we do about it, and think of it as like a bell curve, where you've got the big hump in the middle. And this is what climate scientists actually say is there's a 90% chance we're going to have warming between 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius and maybe 5 degrees. So there's a 5% chance on either side. One side, it means there's almost going to be no effect. The other side says there's going to be a catastrophic effect. But what happens is the 5% who say there's going to be no effect and the 5% who say it's going to be catastrophic, they hijack the entire conversation.
Yeah.
And so then people who have genuine curiosity, they're just trying to understand the science and the data. They don't know what to do. And so John, that's what I think that's what we're trying to get at.
Yeah, and I agree with your first statement about how basically it's not politically sexy. So if you have a real bipartisan, thoughtful conversation, that will not end up on Tucker Carlson's show. So the people on the far right will never respect that conversation, and he won't respect it either. And then those who are far left commentators will typically not highlight that as well. We will highlight it on this program because we lead with a policy first agenda. So we would highlight something that is good policy. Let's talk about policies as it relates to climate change. One of the greatest debates is if climate change is connected to man. That's one of the debates. So you will literally have some Republicans that say, oh yeah, I believe climate change is real, but I don't believe man has anything to do with it. And they'll point to like volcanoes and stuff, okay? So let's talk about why or how. Let me start with the how. How do you implement policy? What's your policy agenda as it relates to climate in America?
Well, that's a great question. Well, the best answer to that is free economies or clean economies. We just did a big report. Nick Loris, who was at the Heritage Foundation, we hired him to be our VP of Public Policy at C3 Solutions. Nick's paper looked at what's the Heritage's index of economic indicators that show what are the free economies in the world, and then we compared it to Yale's index of environmental performance, and we proved that the freer economies are twice as clean as the less free. So the phrase that to remember is we are cleansed by capitalism. That when you have a free enterprise system, you're much more likely to have the innovations that are required to develop cleaner technologies that emit fewer CO2 emissions.
Wait a minute.
So that's what you want to do. You want to have economic freedom is the answer.
John.
Not top-down central command and control economies.
Okay, so here's my pushback on that, brother.
Okay.
You're a Christian man, correct?
Yeah.
Your Christianity teaches, and I'm a Christian man also, that there's a cause and effect relationship with everything you do. Everything. You reap what you sow.
Right.
Okay.
And how do things help the least of these? That's another.
That's a fundamental tenet. Exactly. So let's stick to this one. You reap what you sow, meaning everything has a cause and effect relationship, everything. If you're telling me that the pathway to a cleaner environment is to allow corporations to do what they want to do in their production and manufacturing, that violates the tenet of the cause and effect dynamic. Because while you have the theory that these entities will operate in good faith, and because of the competitive market, they will find better ways to produce, cleaner ways to produce, I have a different theory. I believe they will find more profitable ways to produce and damn the waste that it takes to produce it. And the reason why I say that is more likely the practical application of a free economy or free market economy, as you suggest, is because historically, that's what they've always done. It is because of policy, regulation, and tort law why we have sensible regulations in place now. And you're telling me if you get rid of those things, that these companies will automatically start leaning toward a cleaner solution for their manufacturing needs. And I'm telling you, brother, they're going to lean to a profit, a bottom line solution to their manufacturing.
Well, I think what I'm offering isn't just a theory; it's a fact. And so I'm not suggesting, to be clear, that you get rid of all regulation. I think the regulations have to be limited. And some of the hallmarks of a free society and what we define as a free economy is where you do have the rule of law. You do have a system in place where there are regulations that can punish bad actors, but that you leave enough freedom to allow the good actors to innovate and develop new inventions. So a good comparison is look at when communism fell, okay, in 1991, the Berlin Wall came down. You had West Germany, West Berlin, East Berlin. There was the line dividing those two cities was not just a physical wall, but it was a line of soot. The East was dirty physically, the West was a lot cleaner. And the reason it was because of economic freedom, is that you had one side that had a freer economy, the other side had a less free. Today, look at China. So today, the issue of climate change is increasingly an issue of China change. So China is literally cooking the planet, and they are producing far more CO2 than the rest of the developed world combined. So it's true that historically, the United States and other developed countries, we put a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere, but now it's China that is pushing us farther to a dangerous point. And so when you look at heat waves, when you look at
John, why is China the #1 violator? Answer that.
Why? Because they're a communist country that has a central command and control. They don't care about the people that they represent. Regime cares primarily about staying in power.
They care primarily about their bottom line. You're right on the central regime part. They care primarily about their bottom line, and they do not care to regulate themselves into a profit loss. And because of the lack of regulation, and granted, they will have to regulate themselves, but because of a lack of regulation, you have China as the #1 violator on the planet right now. And how do you then conclude after that fact that somehow having other governments or structures of government allow for non-regulation? How do you not get to the same place that China is right now under non-regulation?
Well, here's a good case study. So we in the United States, we have something called the National Environmental Policy Act. It's 50 years old. It's totally outdated. And because that's a regulation and that most progressives say is a good regulation, that regulation is responsible for slowing the deployment of clean energy projects all over the country, often by 7 or 8 years. So if our goal is to quickly scale up, and another great example is nuclear energy. If we want to have more nuclear energy, that is the quickest, best emergency step we could take is to dramatically expand nuclear. We have to have a deregulation component. So again, let's go back to the bell curve because there's 5% on either side of this question. Some people say we need to have total regulation. Other people say zero. I'm not saying we should have zero. I'm saying there's a sweet spot where you have to have regulation that limits and punishes bad actors, but keeps enough economic freedom in the system so that innovators, people who are good, well-intentioned folks that just want to create a new business, they're able to get their inventions approved and into the market as quickly as possible. And that helps everybody when we allow that to happen.
You know, the climate debate is a very nuanced discussion because you're right. You have extremes on both sides. You have individuals who may be in the middle, but that middle is rarely defined, right? What policies can we actually agree with? Now, here's something, I say this at the end of my show. I tell people at the end of my show, every program, take care of this planet. Understand that climate issues, pollution, etc., it impacts urban communities first and the worst. It hits those communities that produce me the hardest. And so I take this seriously, and it's not just a political talking point. So the question is, how? Man, I'm still trying to get to the methodology place, because you make a lot of sense on some issues, and then to me, you make absolutely no sense when you go to a deregulated or deregulation standpoint. You actually use the example of a country that is operating without any regulation whatsoever and in violation of international regulations. They're operating in violation of those regulations, and you see what's happening. I don't think you can get to your conclusion or the stated conclusion that you proclaimed on the show by simply saying, let's be deregulated and allow the free market to take over. So what is the nuance, brother? What is the middle of the road? Help define that part on this show.
Exactly. So the answers are, first of all, you have to have lower energy prices for people who are in a tough spot. Yeah. So the Green New Deal, so I'll talk about why the Green New Deal doesn't work in order to explain what does work. So the Green New Deal approach is to essentially only address this issue in the context of the United States. Totally ramp up renewable energy, and I'm all for renewable. I live on a farm. I've got 62 acres. I want to put solar on my land. I'm all for that. I just planted 1,000 trees. All good things. Wind, good, great. Hydro is excellent, but we don't have enough land to actually do 100% renewable. So we have to have clean natural gas. So there's been no technology that's done more to reduce CO2 emissions in the past 20 years than fracking. So when the left says we got to follow the science, well, if you want to follow the science, you have to look at how hydraulic fracking and the natural gas revolution made our environment cleaner, because it displaced dirty coal burning with much cleaner natural gas. So cleaner natural gas is great for lower income communities. Yeah. Another thing that would be great is to reprioritize what we do in the federal government. So we can, I'm a big fan of recycling government waste. Like, let's get rid of the junk in the federal budget that does nothing to help people, and repurpose some of that to basic research so that we can develop.
Let me do this. I got 2 minutes left, brother, and I like a lot of what you're saying. Now, I've had the pleasure of reading the Green New Deal. Based on what you've said on the show and based on me reading your background, I think you actually agree with 80% of the Green New Deal.
I agree with the aspirational goals, but I'll tell you very specifically what I don't like about the Green New Deal. And I'll actually read a section of it real quickly. Okay. So it says the Green New Deal, in order to do this, it requires the following goals and projects. And I'm looking at line O. It says we need to have high quality healthcare, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, clean air, water, healthy. So it addresses these other goals that have nothing to do really with a quote climate emergency. So Think about the movie Armageddon. Remember the movie with Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler?
Right.
And so if we have an asteroid coming to Earth, what the Green New Deal does is says, okay, we're going to launch the spaceship to go at the asteroid, but first we've got to go to Jupiter. We got to do this other project called universal healthcare. Then we have to go to Mars and terraform Mars, and we've got to, have universal basic income, free college.
All right, so let me push back.
By the way,
we got 1 minute.
We'll come back, yeah.
Yeah, let me push back on that. The Green New Deal is, as you say, aspirational. It is a theoretical political framework, basically, that is codified in writing. It is something that we look toward as a goal. You have actual policy dynamics inside of it, but you also have an expanded version of some of our more connected policies that we would like to see done in disenfranchised communities. I don't have a problem with that. And I think people get hung up on who supports the Green New Deal more so than looking at it policy by policy, line by line. You literally said on my show, from the energy policies that you support, you already have agreed to almost 80% of what's in it. Now, you may disagree with 30% vigorously, right? But you agree with a lot of it. I would dare argue most of it. And that's the part that the tribalism that you talked about, that's the part that doesn't get discussed. The Green New Deal has become a bad word to Republicans. How do you change that?
Well, I think we need to have our own manifesto, because the Green New Deal isn't just a framework, it is a manifesto. And I give AOC enormous credit for doing that. And I would call it a socialist manifesto, progressive manifesto, whatever term you like. But on the right, we need to do a much better job of describing what does our freedom manifesto look like. If we're going to have the spaceship go at the asteroid, what it's called economic freedom, and we need to do a better job of describing how that's going to lift all boats, how it's going to help people who are disenfranchised, because I'm convinced that it will.
Man, I'm flat out of time, brother. It has been a sensible, respectful, cordial conversation, and I appreciate that, brother.
I appreciate you.
You come back anytime, man.
You bet.
Okay.
Will do, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.